There must be war. God wills it!
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Unpopular Opinion, and today we are going to be reviewing the 1993 Johnathan Demme movie, Philadelphia. Philadelphia, it stars Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington, and it tells the story of a gay lawyer who has AIDS, but his bosses find out about it and then they fire him, so he teams up with another lawyer who he actually worked against on a previous lawsuit so he could sue his bosses.
What happened to your face?
I have AIDS.
Oh. I mean, the movie's pretty popular. It won a few Oscars. It got Tom Hanks his first Oscar for Best Actor. And, well, honestly, I don't really love this movie. I have a bit of mixed feelings about it. Let me just get this out of the way. Tom Hanks is my favorite actor. I love Tom Hanks. He's been in a lot of my favorite movies. But he didn't really do it for me in this movie. I mean, one thing that I think bothers me is the opening of the movie. It starts with him, but for the middle bulk part of the film, when he's in the courtroom, Denzel Washington is really leading the charge with all the dialogues, and Tom Hanks is kind of just passive sitting there. And then in the end, he comes in continuing his dramatic performance. But for the middle, when he's in the courtroom, there's not really a lot of great Tom Hanks acting.
I've heard of a thing, the gay plague, the gay cancer.
So I'll boldly say I don't really think Tom Hanks deserved the Oscar for this movie. I don't even think he should have been nominated. I get he put a lot of effort into starving himself to look physically ill, and I get that it was a huge dedication, and I love the fact that this, up until this point, was like a huge break in the Tom Hanks typecast, because Tom Hanks can play anything, but there was a time where Tom Hanks was viewed as kind of like a comedic dude, and this broke that. But I don't really see anything Oscar-worthy in this movie, and in my opinion, one of the greatest acting performances in a movie, it came from Liam Neeson in Schindler's List when he was playing Oscar Schindler. They were both nominated that year, and Tom Hanks beat Liam Neeson. And I feel like Liam Neeson deserved the Oscar more than Tom Hanks, so I kind of hold that against this movie, and I can't help it. So Tom Hanks plays Andrew Beckett. He's the gay lawyer with AIDS, and everyone acts like he's such a heroic guy. The American Film Institute ranked him as number 49 on the greatest movie heroes of all time. I totally disagree with that. I don't really think Andrew Beckett's like this great heroic character. Now, I will say, and I will admit, this movie came out at a time where being openly gay was not really an accepted thing. Like today, if you come out as gay, nobody cares. Like people will give you a pat on the back. There's the Gay Pride Month, there's parades. Nobody cares. But back then, there was actual people were gonna ostracize you, or it could ruin your relationship. So it definitely, I'll give him credit for that, because the whole public knowing about his personal life like that at a time where it wasn't acceptable, fine. But I don't really think that makes him like a super heroic guy. And when I watch the movie, I can't really shake the feeling. I feel like this is an Oscar bait film. It really feels like an Oscar bait movie that was sort of successful, because the thing is, like, Oscar bait, if you don't know, Oscar bait is like a movie that takes a certain political stand or like talks about a social issue and then makes it like super dramatic and artsy, and it's done in a way that the Academy Awards love movies like that. They can't resist it, and then they end up giving it a bunch of awards. And this movie it seemed like an Oscar bait movie. It seemed like Johnathan Demme was like, I just came off of Silence of the Lambs. I want to do that again. How do I get more Oscar glory? Let's talk about a hot button social identity politic thing, and then put in some sort of moral stance to it, and then get some good actors to duke it out in a courtroom. I just can't shake the feeling that it feels like an Oscar bait movie, and I don't know, it doesn't sit right with me. I mean, not for naught, I think the movie from a directorial cinematography point of view was overdone. Johnathan Demme, he was fantastic in Silence of the Lambs. That is one of the best directed movies of all time, and I think he has a very distinct visual style that can look great. And there were shots in this movie that were fantastic, that were magnificent and breathtaking. But then there's other shots where it's really overdone in your face, and you're like, okay, Demme, you can calm down. It's not a big deal. I think a great example would be when Andy was getting makeup done to hide the fact that his skin was becoming pale and his disease was progressing. So he had this woman apply orange makeup on him, but then he runs into the bathroom because he's in agony, and his friends are like, I got bagels, and then the camera's doing like these extreme close-ups or these weird point of view angles. I thought that was too much, way over the top, unnecessary. And the movie has shots like that that were completely unnecessary in my opinion.
I think I need to go to the hospital.
So to recap, Tom Hanks did good. Don't think this was a great performance. I really disagree with the fact that the American Film Institute ranked Andrew Beckett as one of the greatest movie heroes of all time. I get it. What he did took balls to do back then. You know, good for him for standing up for himself and his civil rights. No one's gonna disagree with that. But is that heroic on the same level as Indiana Jones or Obi-Wan Kenobi or literally Oscar Schindler? Because he's also on this list. And I also don't like the fact that Hanks got the award over Liam Neeson. But let me tell you something that I really did like about the movie, Denzel Washington.
My nigga.
I love Denzel Washington. He is one of my favorite actors. And surprisingly, I think this performance of Denzel is one of his best in his career. He's done a lot of terrific movies like Glory, Training Day.
You want to get shit done, you got to get it done yourself.
Cry Freedom, stuff like that. Like, Denzel's a fantastic actor, but Philadelphia, he was amazing in this movie. And the reason why I liked him and his character of Joe Miller more than Andrew Beckett is because we really know Andy from the beginning. Like, Andrew Beckett, he's a gay lawyer with AIDS. He's suing his employer because they wrongfully terminated him. And that's his arc for the whole movie. We establish his character. There's a big chunk of the film where he doesn't really do anything but just sit quietly in the courtroom with not a lot of character development or change. It's just, all right, I want to sue them, but I also recognize I'm probably going to die before this is over. But Denzel really like steps up and takes on a huge responsibility, and he's carrying the team in the courtroom. Now, I'm no lawyer or anything, but I really love the courtroom scenes where Denzel is making his opening statement where he's just like, because they fired him, he had AIDS, they broke the law.
When they fired Andrew Beckett because he had AIDS, they broke the law.
It was an amazing delivery. And I love the fact that in this movie, Denzel Washington, you really see his character growth. Like, he's a germaphobe. He's uncomfortable around Andy because he has AIDS. He immediately schedules a doctor's appointment after meeting with Andy because he's afraid of the disease. But on top of that, he himself does not like gay people, but he recognizes that the case is important and he takes the case regardless of his own personal prejudice. And in the end, you really see him develop as a more mature character. He gets more comfortable with Andy. He actually goes to one of his gay parties. He stops using all these really insulting terms for gay people. And I thought that was a pretty cool character transition for Denzel.
Are you a faggot? You know, a punk queen?
And this really all comes full circle where he wins the case. He wins the case and saves Andy and gets all this money. And Andy and him are in the hospital because Beckett's on the verge of death. And Denzel overcomes his fear and touches his face by readjusting his oxygen mask. And they shake hands as like, I'm no longer afraid to touch you. I'm proud to say you're my friend, or it was a pleasure working with you. And I really loved the character development of Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington, in my opinion, he deserved the Oscar, or at least a nomination for Best Supporting Actor for this role. And in my opinion, one of Denzel's best scenes, this was Denzel's scene that I loved, was the opera scene. Now, actually, not many people know this, but I actually do really enjoy opera music. So when they had La Mama Morta by Maria Callas, that was really good. That's a really good piece. And, you know, everyone always says that's the scene that won Hanks the Oscar. I could see that. Fine. I don't agree with it, but I understand where you're coming from. I think, in my opinion, that was Denzel's scene more than Tom Hanks' scene, because they start out, they're talking about the questionnaire for the case. Like, this is important case stuff. Andy, I need you to look at this. And then he starts talking, do you ever pray? Because you could tell they're both not religious people. And he kind of just brushes it off. Joe Miller's like, okay, yeah, I pray. I want the Phillies to win the pennant, or I want a healthy baby. And then the music starts playing and he's like, are you an opera player, or do you like opera? And he's like, I don't, Andy, let's get back to work. And then Andy starts singing along or describing the music, and Joe is just experiencing the music. And you see the lights change, turns like this red and dark glow. That was really amazing. Because like I said, some scenes were overdone. Some scenes were done perfectly. This was one of them. You see the visual close up on Tom Hanks' face as he's getting the music sinking into him, realizing the situation that he's about to go through. And then you see Denzel, the close-up on his face, you see that not only is the music impacting him, because it's the power of opera, this is the moment that breached his wall. This was the moment that really breached his defenses of keeping Andrew at bay. Like, no, dude, this guy, he's a human being. I feel bad for him. He's going through a lot, and wow, this is really touching. And the close-up on his face where you could just see, like, he's getting all teary, and he's like, Look, the music, he's welling up. And then when it stops, Tom Hanks just comes down from it. He's like, yeah, I got a little carried away. I'll look at the music I'll look at the questionnaire, and Denzel's like, no, you're fine. And they're both in that very manly thing. Most guys do this. They're not gonna cry in front of each other. They're just like, yeah, no, I got you, you're cool. And then they leave, and then Denzel's hugging his kids and his kid and his wife. That was a really powerful scene, and I think that scene was Denzel's more than it was Tom Hanks's. So I'll just wrap up. Overall, the movie, it's a good movie. It's not a great movie. I don't love the movie. I can see why people really like it. It's just not for me. I'll watch it for sure. Like, I have the DVD. Occasionally, once in a while, I'll put it in just as like a, I haven't seen this in a while. I want some background music while I'm playing a board game or something. But I think it's a standout in Denzel's career in terms of performances. Tom Hanks, love the guy. He's my favorite actor. Wasn't thrilled with his performance in the movie. It was an interesting concept, an interesting story, especially at a time where this social issue was actually still more of like a public contested thing, where homosexuality and people being openly gay was not really acceptable. Now, if this movie came out, I don't really think anyone would care. I think it would be just another Hollywood movie, but this movie came out at a time where it actually took guts to make this movie, so I'll give it credit for that, but I still can't help but feel like it's an Oscar bait film. So guys, to sum up, Philadelphia, good movie, not great. Tom Hanks, great actor, performance, he put a lot of effort to it. Him starving himself, I get it. But I will say one thing. This just occurred to me. It was interesting seeing Antonio Banderas and Tom Hanks in a movie together. Like, you wouldn't think Antonio Banderas and Tom Hanks would be in a movie together. And it's interesting seeing them paired up as co-workers or co-stars, because Antonio Banderas is Tom Hanks' boyfriend in this movie.
Oh. Give it a fever, baby.
And then you don't think Denzel Washington and Tom Hanks. That's a really interesting duo. So those three actors, who are fantastic actors, by the way, I love the fact that this movie brought them together. So that's like an impromptu outro thing that I thought would be cool mentioning. But be that as it may, what did you guys think of the movie? Do you like Philadelphia? Do you disagree? Do you think Tom Hanks really did deserve the Oscar? Well, comment that below. Also, do you agree with the American Film Institute putting him as number 50 or 49 of the 50 greatest movie heroes? Comment below. Let's just have a fun, polite, cordial discussion. If you disagree, share it with me, comment below. Remember to like the video, subscribe. Also, follow me on Instagram. That will be linked in the description below. That's all I have for you guys, and I'll see you on the next Unpopular Opinion.